Yeah, okay. So welcome everyone to this, hopefully the first of many forums that Contracorriente is going to be holding for our English-speaking audience. The point of this forum is to discuss the elections that were held in Honduras last Sunday. For those who don't know, Contracorriente is an independent media that is based in Honduras. The journalists there investigate the stories that they're covering. They go out to the locations and they interview the people that are most affected by the issues that are being written about and that are being discussed. So we have had an English section now for a little over a year, I believe. And the idea of that is to make sure that local voices are being heard outside of Honduras about the issues that take place there. And that we can provide news about Honduras or Central America to people in the US, in Australia, in England, and so on, that's contextualized and that has local knowledge embedded in it. As part of our English language coverage, we also have a migration podcast, which I've been producing. We provide a newsletter, and we translate a lot of our content. So my name's Tamara Pearson. I've been a journalist for over 20 years. I'm a published author and I'm working with Contracorriente on the English language section. And today we have with us Jennifer Avila, who is the co-founder of Contracorriente, the main editor. And she is also a very experienced journalist. She's produced, I think, at least 9 documentaries. And she covers things like the environment, gender, resource exploitation, politics, human rights, things like that. So for today's forum, we will be hearing first from Jennifer, and then after that, we'll have time for questions and comments. And I would just ask that you limit any comments to around 3 minutes, just so that everyone has a chance to participate. So we'll kick it off. Jennifer.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you for being here in this first forum in English around the coverage that Contracorriente have made about the elections last Sunday. Well, first, we are very happy because we were expecting troubles, we were expecting conflict, and what we had at last on Sunday was a very nice day with a lot of participation of the people. I think that also a lot of journalists and independent media are very happy because we think that all this work of giving people information and putting democracy discussions into people, into young people also, well, I think that makes the results, and those results are, we saw them on Sunday. A lot of young people from every corner of this country, they went out to vote, and even thought there was a lot of fear because we are in a political crisis extended since the coup d'etat and the illegal re-election of Juan Orlando Hernandez. A lot of people had hope, and they vote, and their vote was a vote of hope. And now we're still in this environment of happiness. We're happy because nothing happened, not conflict happened, but now we need to see and we need to discuss as a society what is next, right? Just a lot of people went to vote, but what is next for the citizens now? What are the challenges that this new government will face? And we don't get to forget that we are in a very deep crisis, in an economic crisis, a corruption crisis, and also we need like answers as citizens. So I think this new government has a lot of challenges, and now we need as journalists and also as civil society organizations, we need to put this into discussion and to ask what we think we need to improve in our country. I think one of the biggest challenge of this new government that is going to start on January 2022 is the economic issue. We have a very deep crisis, economic crisis. This government, Juan Orlando Hernandez government, just broke our finances, and it was because of corruption and because they wanted also to cover everything, like people getting to vote with the money of the state. And we had a lot of loans because of the pandemic. So I think that is like a very big issue that the new government need to face, like the public debt that now Honduras has, and that is really huge. And then all the demands that are coming for this government, because people just spoke and now they're going to demand. And social movement will demand, but also the economic elite will demand, because we need to understand also that Xiomara Castro's government will not be just a left government, a left-wing government, just like that. And this Libertad y Refundación party went together with another party, Salvador de Honduras, in an alliance, or I don't know how to say it exactly, but it's a political alliance with a very conservative party. So, and they had to make deals, and they have to go to put things into discussion. And we are not, now we don't really know how many of the government plans, how many points of the government plan will stay as they were before the elections and before the political alliance. We don't know how this government of an alliance will put all these new government plans. So this is something that we need to wait for, and to understand how this will work. So I think we're a lot of people were expecting that if Xiomara Castro's win, this will be a left-wing government, and more or less something like Mel Zelaya's government in 2006. But a lot of things are different now. And we need to understand that this will be like something like a mild left-wing government. And we now need to understand how this government will have a transition, also a pacific transition. There's a lot of things happening right now after Xiomara Castro. She gave a speech on last Sunday, and she said that she will have a reconciliation government, and we don't really know what that means. A lot of people, I was in there in this speech, and a lot of people were saying, I hope reconciliation doesn't mean impunity. So we don't really know what is a reconciliation government, because the history here in our region also tell us that some reconciliation governments, they end into impunity. So now we need to watch like how this new government will deal with the demands from different sectors that are going to put a lot of pressure in it. Civil society organizations, social movements, economic elites, also the armed forces. We're not clear what is going to happen with that, because a lot of demands around the social movement are to end militarization in Honduras. But that's not so easy. And this reconciliation government will need to speak with the armed forces and make deals. And they are also going to demand something from this government to be a Pacific government too. And also, we're expecting how Xiomara Castro is going to deal with international relations. For example, with the United States, but also she was proposing at first opening relations with China. And we also know that Ortega's government, this left-wing government, has been a friend from Zelaya and also Maduro in Venezuela, and we don't know how how this government will deal with all these demands also, and all this attention from the international community. And one also that other challenge around international relations, especially with the United States, is that Xiomara Castro also she proposed at first an international anti-corruption commission um, under the veil of the United Nations. So that's also going to put that is also going to be interesting about international relationships and how she will work with the United Nations in the creation of this commission, if that happens. But I think we're going to have very, very interesting four years of this government. And now the message that we want to make to the community, also to the citizens in Honduras, is that voting is not enough to build democracy. Now we have a very, very huge challenge here in Honduras. It's not going to be easy to start building democratic institutions when we have 8 years, well, 12 years of autocratic governments. So I don't know, maybe I will stay there because I'm just speaking just speaking and speaking, and maybe you have other questions that I can just point specifically.
Cool, thank you so much. That was actually really, really interesting, because you're right, there are so many challenges when a left-wing government comes to power after so much time with the right. If people have questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand, or to turn your video on and like physically raise your hand, or with the little symbol thing, or mention in the chat that you'd like to say anything. Just have another person requesting entry. John Walsh is asking what the outlook is for a constituyente.
Well, that's a very critical point in this political alliance with Salvador de Honduras. We don't know how they will manage this, because the people, this party, or at least Salvador Nasralla, which is part of the alliance, he said that a constituyente is not needed, and if maybe if they propose one, they will make a popular consultation, more likely like a plebiscito or something like that. But I don't know. I think that's a very critical thing, because I think that Honduras needs a new constitution right now, because there's a lot of things that are not fine with that constitution since the coup d'etat, that the constitution is more like something that no one respects no more. But it's also difficult to think how this new government will ask like a popular consultation in the conditions that Honduras is right now. For example, we didn't have the full budget for these elections. We're broke. I don't know how a new government will just ask or will organize national consultation for this if we don't have the money. That's like a practical thing right now, but we don't know in the inside of the alliance if they already have I don't know how to say consenso, like if they have an agreement around this critical point. For now, that is one of the questions that we have, and that they have not responded about these critical points, if they had an agreement or not inside the alliance. But yes, that's one of the things that I think in the first year the people will demand, like social movement will demand, and that could be something that will give a lot of pressure to the government, to the new government, because it was also a promise from the campaign. But after the alliance, we don't know how this gets, because we are getting contradictory messages from Narrala and from Xiomara. So I don't know there.
Ada is asking, how concerned are you with the new government's relationship with Maduro?
Well, it's concerning the relationships with Maduro and also with Ortega, right? But I think we are not in the same world. We're not in the same Latin America from 2006 or 2009. I don't know if this new government will be too interested in open relationship with governments that are pointed as autocratic, if they are trying to build democracy here in Honduras. And also Venezuela don't have anymore, they don't have the Alba Petróleo money anymore. And we need to be practical here. Our country has an economic crisis, and this is not about ideology. Our country needs to have relations with the countries that can help economically this crisis we are passing through. And I think that's why we are seeing a very mild left-wing speech right now after the alliance and close to the elections. So I think that they will, I think now they are having this flirting in Twitter, like Maduro was like the first president, I think, that said hello to Xiomara, but that's not significant right now, I think. But well, I know that also Mel Zelaya and Xiomara have a big debt with them after the coup d'etat, because they helped helped them a lot. But I think they will be more practical right now, and we're not in the same context that 2009.
Okay, and then we have a question from Carol, who's asking about your perspective on the new Congress.
We will have a very interesting balance of the political forces in the new government, and that is very good for democracy. I think it's very good to have divided like the political forces, so we can get balance. But this is also very challenging for the Xiomara new government, because the party Libertad y Refundación, her party, they don't get to be the biggest force, or maybe they could, but They will not concentrate power in the Congress, and that make that their party need to make deals with the Liberal Party, for example, that they have a very significant group of congressmen getting in the Congress. I don't know if you hear me, but
Are you looking for some figures?
mm, I'm sorry. Let me see. Well, I had technical problems. Well, but I was saying that it will be a very interesting balance in Congress, and now we know that this National Congress is very important because they are going to choose the general attorney and also the court, the justice court. And that is really, really important and basic if Honduras wants to build institutions, more democratic institutions, because the one of the more important institutions to renew is the justice system. And we have a justice system that will not it will be useful, an international commission, anti-corruption commission, if the justice system is not clean. And that will be something that the new Congress will choose. So that will be very interesting. That will happen in 2023. And we will see how the parties will get agreements around the justice system renewal on 2023. But I think it's very interesting that we will not have a Congress with power concentration in only one party. That will also be how they deal with that and how they get agreements. That will be a very interesting thing to see and to get deep into how this will function. But for now, I think the people also gave the parties, the traditional parties, a lesson, and people voted against the old guard of the traditional parties. We are seeing that in this new Congress. Even the National Party, which is the oldest party and the traditional party, they have new congressmen, like they have new faces. We don't know if they are better than the old guard, but they are new. And also the same party people that voted for the National Party, they voted for something different right now. So that's very interesting. Also, the Liberal Party, they voted not for the old guard of the party. They voted for the new people getting in these elections and running in these elections. And that is also a message for the traditional parties, that they need to renew the people participating, and this old guard is not going to be in the Congress, or at least the majority of them. And let me tell you that a lot of people mentioned in the Angle list, they didn't get elected right now. So this had an impact in the people, like all the people that were congressmen and they were enlisted in this Angle list or in the or punished by the Magnitsky Act. They didn't get elected this time. And that's the message also for people, that they want new people in the Congress, and now they need to be more democratic in the agreements they have to make the more difficult decisions around a constituyente, or around the reforms that the justice system needs to work.
I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on how the US is going to react to this change, because I know that we've seen in other countries like Bolivia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, we've seen that the US, even under Biden, isn't totally prepared to stay out of matters. But even here in Mexico, where the government is sort of slightly left, maybe center-ish, but not as bad as previous governments, we've seen that the US has still put pressure on Mexico in terms of its policies, in terms of its treatment of migrants, its taxes on US transnational companies. So do you think the US will, but at the same time, the US has been prosecuting some members of the previous or the current government. Do you think there will be a change in the way the US relates to Honduras?
No, I think like just the Mexico example is what we're seeing, that maybe this will be more likely like Obrador's government. I think United States will be there, like pushing into the migration issues. And for example, this will be also very important for the new government to have good relationships also with Obrador in Mexico, because all these programs, these migration programs from the United States are coming through Mexico too. So that will be something that I think the new government, they already know that they need to deal with this. And they will also have to deal with the anti-corruption proposal from United States, and how they can just make agreements around this issue. So I think they will have a lot of pressure, especially in the migration issue, and the first year is very important for that. But I think that will not change a lot. I don't think this new government will will just fight against the United States, and that's not the best thing to do in the crisis that we're dealing with. And I think that the migration programs will stay like they are. We're seeing Biden's reopening this program, Remaining Mexico program, next week, I think on Monday. So today, right? We've seen that this will not change, and this government will not fight against that. They need to have agreements on that issue, and I think Mexico will be like the best medium there from the United States to Honduras relations around migration. We've seen a lot in Obrador's speech from left-wing and social movement things, but we have also seen a lot of authoritarianism in his government around the press, the independent press, and the migration issues. And I think this will happen also in Honduras. So I don't get to see a real change. And around transnational investments and all these things, that's something that in many ways is very difficult to stop, because a lot of this transnational business and even national business have contracts for 50 years. Like, it's not so easy to just stop relations with a lot of these businesses. I think they need to understand, and they will know, like, the first 6 months of their government. Maybe the first year is going to be more like this new government trying to understand how this autocratic government functioned all these years, and then trying to be practical on some actions that they can do, and then say, well, we cannot do these reforms because we need more years or whatever. So I think in terms of transnational and migration issues and anti-corruption issues, and also drug trafficking, drug war, like, things are not going to change a lot.
Speaking of migration, I know a few Honduran migrants here in Mexico who were persecuted under the previous government, who have said that now they want to return to Honduras. And I also know in our coverage, in our articles, we interviewed people who said that they would leave Honduras if Libre didn't win the elections. So do you think there's going to be a big shift in migration from and to Honduras?
No, I think on January, when people gets into reality again after the Christmas and after the big euphoria from the Libres win, a lot of people will migrate, because like, the root causes are still here, and maybe a lot of them have hope that this government will do something about. But people will not wait more than 6 months to look changes, and that will not be so possible, because we need more time to see some changes. But a lot of people here have told us just like that, like, in January, if things are not getting better, I will flee, because I have the same problem in my neighborhood with the gangs, or I have the same problem that I don't have a job. And maybe a lot of people working for Juan Orlando, for example, for Juan Orlando programs here in Honduras, they're afraid of losing their jobs. And they are saying, hey, now we are going to flee because we're not going to have jobs. So the crisis here in Honduras is not going to change so easily. And the people is going to flee anyway, because the problems are still here. So that's the thing. I think a lot of people said that before the elections because they were just tired and they wanted to make a very strong message to the international community to respect the results of the elections, not like in 2017. But people flee from very various and very deep problems that are not going to be solved in a short term.
Okay, I have one last question. I'm not sure if other people are planning to ask questions or make comments. Feel free to do so. If not, we can perhaps wrap it up on this question. We know that there is a lot of corruption within the current governing party. Do you think that that can be, do you think that's true as well of the incoming party? In terms of corruption, but also organized crime, like, do you think that organized crime will simply corrupt a lot of the current members of the new party, find opportunists and that sort of thing, which is something we've seen happen in Mexico with Morena? Or do you think that they'll have to find different ways to exercise their power if they don't have the party on their side?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, because that is something we need to see how the organized crime will be reorganized in the territories, because we cannot say that all the Libre party is not corrupt, is new. A lot of mayors and a lot of people running into Congress, they are attached to corrupt networks. And I will give you an example. For example, the mayor in Colón, in Tocoa Colón, that is attached to businesses that are prosecuting human defenders in that territory. And maybe Xiomara Castro will say, well, we will give justice to the human rights defenders or the territory defenders, but this mayor from the same party is just affecting the communities. So we cannot say that all the party people or all the party authorities will walk in the same path. And we will need to see how the organized crime will reorganize. I think a lot of people is fearing that this pacific transition from Juan Orlando's government and to Xiomara's government will also mean impunity for some of the National Party people that are not going to stay in the power. For example, the mayor of Tegucigalpa, the presidential candidate Nasreas Fura, a lot of people is asking, hey, they're just getting settlements or agreements to protect this man because we need a pacific transition. So that's something that people is asking. And people is also demanding that if we will have a reconciliation government, that will not mean impunity. But I think a lot of this we will need to watch how the mayors in the small cities will make their local governments, because there we will see how they are attached or not to violent industries, to violent organized crime groups and things like that. But we don't, I think we will, citizens will now need to be more skeptical and to watch every step of the new government, because we know how they work, and now we know how they function as corrupt networks and as politicians attached to organized crime. And now with that information, we need to keep looking into the territories and how they are going to execute their power there.
Cool, thank you. It doesn't look like there's any other questions, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. For people who perhaps missed some of it, or you'd like to share this video with your friends or contacts, we will be posting the recording on the internet. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. Thank you, Jennifer, for your really insightful analysis. And we hope to see everybody on the internet, on our Twitter page, visiting our articles, and all the best to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.